I want to wish a happy Martin Luther King Day to everybody. I have some clips here. This is the Martin Luther King that they want to hide from you. The Martin Luther King that gets the praise and adoration is the Martin Luther King which focused on the stuff that today everybody has to look at and say, oh, of course. So in other words, fighting for the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, treating people of different races equally under the law, that's the part of his legacy where now even the far right, even, the elected Republicans who are on the far right, even they have to pretend like, oh yeah, totally. By the way, many of them voted against Martin Luther King Day. But now everybody pretends like, oh, when you can't beat him, join him. And so they're all like, oh yeah, I totally agree. He's awesome. He's great. Like the FBI tweeted Happy Martin Luther King Day. Meanwhile, they famously try to get him to kill himself by saying, oh, you're having affairs and you should be disgusted. You're a fraud, yada, yada. So, but that's the Martin Luther King that they say, oh, well, we all agree. It's awesome. It's great. Equality, justice. Duh. That's awesome. But they try to hide his radical economic beliefs from you because he was just getting started. The Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, fighting against segregation, he was just getting started. Then he was doing the Poor People's Campaign. And he was going to try to radically redistribute wealth in this country. So here are some clips of him talk about economics. This is fascinating to see.
We must also realize that the problems of racial injustice and economic injustice cannot be solved without a radical redistribution of political and economic power. We read one day, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But if a man doesn't have a job or an income, he has neither life nor liberty and the possibility for the pursuit of happiness. He merely exists. Estimated that we spend $322,000 for each enemy we kill in Vietnam, while we spend in the so-called war on poverty in America only about $53 for each person classified as poor. The promises of the Great Society have been shot down on the battlefield of Vietnam, making the poor, white and Negro, bear the heaviest burdens both at the front and at home. The other thing I want you to understand is this, that it didn't cost the nation one penny to integrate lunch counters. It didn't cost the nation one penny to guarantee the right to vote. But now we are dealing with issues that cannot be solved without the nation spending billions of dollars and undergoing a radical redistribution of economic power. Yeah. All labor has dignity. Yes. But you're doing another thing. You are reminding not only Memphis, but you are reminding the nation that it is a crime for people to live in this rich nation and receive starvation wages. America's opportunity to help bridge the gulf between the haves and the have-nots. And the question is whether America will do it. There's nothing new about poverty. What is new is that we now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty. And the real question is whether we have the will.
He has so many quotes that people don't know about. He famously said, injustice in healthcare is the greatest injustice of them all. He said, my government is the leading purveyor of terror in the world today. He said so much stuff that is democratic socialist, social democratic, however you want to characterize it. I believe he described himself as a democratic socialist. So understand something. Everybody out there praising the brilliant, wonderful Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. today. There's an underlying premise when they talk, and that premise is we achieved the goals that he fought for and strived for. But everybody acts like, oh, we fulfilled his legacy already. We haven't. And if he was around today, he unquestionably, not based off my interpretation of it, based off his own words, he unquestionably would be fighting for Medicare for all, free college, a living wage, ending the wars, unions for all, moving towards democratizing the workplace, a radical redistribution of wealth, as he called it. So that would be higher marginal taxes on the rich, redistribution into social programs for the poor, jobs for all program. That's his legacy. That's what he would fight for. Yes, Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, amazing historic accomplishments. He was a tremendous leader on that front, and he deserves all the credit in the world. But we can honor his legacy by continuing his fight. And we don't have to guess what his fight would have been. We know what his fight would have been. He was doing the Poor People's Campaign at the time when he was killed. He was doing a union event when he was assassinated. Again, Medicare for all, free college, living wage, end the wars, unions for all. This is his legacy. This is what he'd be fighting for. And we can go all in doing exactly that. You can get directly involved, organize, do a general strike, march on Washington, have clear goals when you're pushing for things. I'm not a fan of the protests where there's really no issue at the heart of it. If you're just protesting because you're like, yeah, Trump is bad, congratulations, and then what? And then what? I mean, this is all super important. We need to organize around specific goals, unify around specific goals, and that's what we can do. So get involved and let's fight for these things. And listen, I mean, this might be politically incorrect to say, but I'll say it. There is a candidate running for president who marched with this brilliant man. And there is a candidate who's fighting to carry on his legacy. And I think you all know his name.